Before the world wakes, before the first light stretches across the horizon, there is a quiet stillness. It is in that stillness that Easter begins. Not with noise, not with celebration, but with silence. A silence that holds history, meaning, and hope. Easter is not simply a holiday. It is not just a date on a calendar. It is a story, ancient and enduring, woven into the fabric of humanity. It is a story of endings and beginnings, of sorrow and joy, of darkness and light. To truly understand Easter, we must travel back, far beyond modern traditions, far beyond decorated eggs and spring gatherings, into the deep roots of history, belief, and the human spirit. Long before Christianity, long before churches and written scriptures, people looked to the natural world for meaning. They watched the seasons change. They felt the cold grip of winter slowly loosen its hold. They saw the earth awaken. They witnessed life return. And in that return, they saw something sacred. Across ancient civilizations, Mesopotamia, Egypt, Persia, Greece, and Northern Europe, spring was celebrated as a time of renewal. Fields that once lay barren began to bloom. Animals gave birth. The days grew longer. Light returned. These changes were not seen as ordinary. They were seen as miraculous. To early people, the cycle of the seasons reflected the cycle of life itself. Death was not the end, but a passage. Dormancy was not emptiness, but preparation. Spring became a symbol of rebirth. Festivals were held to honor this transformation. In ancient Persia, the celebration of Nowruz marked the new year and the arrival of spring. In Egypt, stories of Osiris spoke of death and resurrection. In Greece, myths of Persephone explained the changing seasons, her return from the underworld bringing life back to the earth. Even in Northern Europe, the goddess Istra, or Ostara, was associated with dawn, fertility, and new beginnings. Her symbols included eggs and hares, both powerful representations of life and creation. These symbols, simple yet profound, would echo through time, eventually becoming part of the Easter we know today. But Easter, as it is most widely recognized, finds its heart in a different story. A story rooted not in myth, but in a moment in history that would forever change the world. Nearly 2,000 years ago, in the land of Judea, under the rule of the Roman Empire, there lived a man named Jesus of Nazareth. He was not a king. He held no political power. He owned no wealth. And yet, his words carried a power that could not be ignored. He spoke of love, not as an idea, but as a way of life. He spoke of forgiveness, even in the face of wrongdoing. He spoke of humility, compassion, and truth. He reached out to those society had cast aside. He healed the sick. He comforted the broken. And people listened. They followed him. They believed in him. Some saw him as a teacher. Others as a prophet. And many came to believe he was the Son of God. But not everyone welcomed his message. Religious leaders saw him as a threat to their authority. Political leaders feared the influence he had over the people. And so, during the time of Passover, a sacred Jewish festival remembering liberation and freedom, events began to unfold that would lead to one of the most profound moments in history. Jesus was betrayed, arrested, tried. And though he had committed no crime deserving death, he was sentenced to crucifixion. Crucifixion was a brutal and public execution. It was meant to humiliate, to punish, to serve as a warning. And so, on a day we now call Good Friday, Jesus was led to a hill called Golgotha. There, he was nailed to a cross. The sky grew dark. The air grew heavy. And as he hung there, suffering, he spoke words that would echo through time. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Even in his final moments, he chose compassion. When he died, his body was taken down and placed in a tomb. A large stone was rolled across the entrance. For his followers, it was the end. Hope had been shattered. The one they believed in was gone. And so, for a time, there was silence. But Easter is not a story that ends in silence. It is a story that rises from it. On the third day, something extraordinary happened. When women came to the tomb, they found the stone rolled away. The tomb was empty. And in that moment, everything changed. Jesus had risen. The resurrection is the heart of Easter. It is the moment that transformed grief into joy, fear into faith, darkness into light. For Christians, It is the ultimate expression of hope. A reminder that death is not the end. That love cannot be extinguished. That life continues beyond what we can see. And so, Easter became a celebration. Not just of an event, but of a promise. A promise that renewal is always possible. That even in our lowest moments, something greater can rise. As Christianity spread across the world, the celebration of Easter evolved. Early Christians marked the resurrection annually, though the date varied. It was closely connected to Passover, reflecting the timeline of the original events. Eventually, the Church sought consistency. In the year 325 AD, at the Council of Nicaea, it was decided that Easter would be celebrated on the first Sunday after the first full moon following the spring equinox. This connection to both the solar and lunar cycles is deeply symbolic. It ties Easter not only to history, but to the rhythms of the universe itself. As the celebration spread through Europe, it began to blend with local traditions. The symbols of spring, eggs, flowers, animals, became part of the Easter experience. The egg, long a symbol of new life, took on new meaning. It became a symbol of the resurrection, the idea that life can emerge from what appears lifeless. In medieval times, eggs were often forbidden during Lent. When Easter arrived, they were once again enjoyed, often decorated and shared as gifts. Over time, this evolved into the colorful Easter eggs we see today. The hare, known for its fertility, also became associated with Easter. In German traditions, the Easter hare would lay eggs for children to find. This eventually became the Easter bunny, a beloved figure in modern celebrations. Yet beneath these joyful traditions lies a deeper meaning. Easter is not just about symbols. It is about transformation. It is about the journey from one state of being to another. And that journey is something we all experience. Because Easter is not just a story from long ago. It is a reflection of the human experience. We all face moments of darkness. Moments where we feel lost, uncertain, broken. We all carry burdens. We all know what it feels like to struggle. And yet, Easter reminds us that those moments do not define us. They are not the end. They are part of a process. A process that leads to growth, to healing, to renewal. Just as winter gives way to spring, just as the night gives way to dawn, we too can rise. This is the universal message of Easter. It speaks to believers and non-believers alike. It speaks to anyone who has ever hoped for something better. Anyone who has ever needed a new beginning. Today, Easter is celebrated around the world in many ways. In churches, people gather to worship. Candles are lit. Hymns are sung. The story of the resurrection is told once more. Sunrise services hold special meaning. As the sun rises, it mirrors the rising of Christ. A new day, a new beginning. Families come together. Meals are shared. Traditions are passed down. Children hunt for eggs, laughter fills the air, and communities celebrate. And in all of these moments, the spirit of Easter lives on. It lives in the quiet reflection. It lives in the joyful celebration. It lives in the simple act of coming together. But perhaps the most powerful part of Easter is not found in its history or its traditions, but in its message. A message that speaks softly, yet powerfully. No matter how dark things may seem, light will return. No matter how lost you may feel, you can find your way again. No matter what you have been through, you are not finished. You can begin again. Easter invites us to pause, to reflect on where we have been and where we are going, to release what no longer serves us, to embrace what lies ahead. It reminds us that renewal is not something that happens once a year. It is something that is always available to us. In every moment. In every breath. In every choice we make. And so, as Easter arrives each year, it brings with it more than tradition. It brings an invitation. An invitation to step into something new. To rise above fear. To move beyond the past. To open ourselves to possibility. To believe, even when it is difficult. To hope, even when it feels uncertain. To trust that something greater is unfolding. Because at its core, Easter is a story of hope. A hope that has endured for centuries. A hope that continues to inspire. A hope that reminds us of the strength within us. And so, as the sun rises on Easter morning, as the world awakens once more, remember this. The story is not just about what happened long ago. It is about what is possible now. It is about you. Your journey. Your growth. Your ability to rise. Again and again. From darkness into light. From endings into beginnings. From silence into song. This is Easter. And its story continues.